Hi, boys and girls. I miss you so, so much. Today I'm going to be doing a read aloud while looking at you. You guys can see Birdie in the background. She's over there. She wants to hear the story too. So the story is called The Book Tree. And I'm really excited because when I looked at this book, first of all, I loved the cover. I don't know if you can see it, but the letters are raised just a little bit. I always think that's really interesting. And I picked it up because I loved the colors on it. I loved that you could see different kinds of writing and different languages. Up there in the flower. See if I can get it on the camera. There we go. There's a bird there. There's a cat. You guys know I love my cat. So we'll have to find out what the book tree is about. And when we do our first step, when we get a new book, we always want to do a quick read, quick look, quick check. And we check the front. We see there's a character up here, possibly another character here. We don't know yet. And when we look at the back, we see the bird again. We see some of the same books, maybe with different writing though. We see that different writing there, and then down here. And there's a squirrel. And then this says, when the mayor bans all the books in town, can one boy's imagination bring stories back to life? And then down here, this is a review of the book by Jan Yolen. And it says, just what we need in today's world. It reminds us that words matter, stories matter, books matter. And it's published by Barefoot Books. So we're going to open this up. First, I want to say it is written and illustrated by Paul, and I'm going to have a hard time saying this name. I think it's Czajak, but I might be saying that wrong. And then Rashin, and then it's Kheiriyeh, yay? Maybe? It's okay. When we can't pronounce words, we do the best we can, especially with names. And we're going to keep going. All right. It's called, and I like this. I know we've seen this before when we opened our pigeon books. They had all the pigeons inside, and this one just has a bunch of books. They do it in the front and in the back, and then it's got a little paragraph about the authors here. So we're going to go ahead and open it up and start to read The Book Tree. The Book Tree, written by Paul, and I'm not going to try the name again, and illustrated by Rashin. And there did the dedication again. We saw that the other day when we were looking at our Night of the Ninjas book. It says, to Yue for never giving up on this one. And then that's from Paul. And then from Rashin, for my husband, Sinna, who loves books like Arlo. Oh, I wonder if Arlo's a character in our story. All right. Let's make sure you guys can see all the book. Nestled in the branches of a tree, Arlo opened his book and breathed in. Beginnings were always the best part. They smelled as if anything was possible. And, I love about this book. If you look at the illustrations, it looks like there's almost fabric up here with this key. It's just printed on the page, but I like those different textures. I think it looks really cool. Bonk. I'm sorry, Mayor. I got lost in my book and it slipped. Preposterous. Books are dangerous. I don't trust them. They act like seeds which grow into ideas, and ideas turn into questions. I will tell you what you need to know. The mayor doesn't look very happy. First, the mayor gathered every book in the library, and then every book in the whole town. Then he tore them up until all that was left was a single page that floated away in a passing breeze. It makes me sad. You guys know I love books. Arlo chased the page as it blew across town. It reminded him of a dandelion seed drifting on a wish. When it landed, the muddy earth swallowed it, letter by letter, until it too was gone. Arlo thought that perhaps the mayor was right. After all, he'd been elected mayor. He must know something, but without books, Arlo noticed changes wherever he looked. At school, teachers had nothing to read, so story time became nap time. Without cookbooks, restaurants served only dry cereal. No one went to the theater since actors had nothing to act out. And in the place Arlo loved most, all the shelves were empty. What was the place that Arlo loved most? Can we read that? Library. Library. Good job. Arlo sat where the last page was buried. He missed the crack and creak of a book's spine the first time you opened it. He longed for the smell and the crisp texture of the book's pages. But most of all, he missed getting lost in an epic adventure. Sadly, Arlo scratched 2 words into the dirt. Endings were the worst part of any book. What did he scratch in the dirt? He wrote, the end. It's kind of hard to see because he's writing from this way, so we're going to turn it upside down and look at it. What did he write? The end. But is this the end of our story? Not yet. Look, even the kitty cat's crying. But as he stared at the words, they grew into an idea. Arlo sat with pencil and paper and let his ideas flow. He read his stories out loud to anyone who passed by, but no one stopped to listen. Then Arlo heard something, a sound he thought he'd never hear again, that familiar crack and creak. When Arlo looked for the source of the sound, he saw a sprout springing from where the page had been buried. It began to open its leaves. It reached for Arlo's words, begging for more. With every story Arlo wrote and read aloud, the sprout grew. Arlo wrote a story about a giant, and the tree grew tall, stretching for the clouds. He wrote about a fire-breathing beast, and its branches became as strong as dragons' claws. He wrote about a magical swan made of paper, and blooms of tissue paper blossomed into books. There's the swan and the dragon. When the books were ripe, Arlo climbed into the branches of the book tree and breathed deeply, enjoying the fruits of his harvest. While Arlo read, a friend stopped under the tree. I'm bored. There's nothing to do. You could try reading, Arlo said. Is that a book? Yep. Here, I love this story. Arlo giving her a hand up into the tree. Arlo said, giving her a hand up into the tree. The two shared the shady spot. Soon flocks of readers roosted on the limbs. Books spread through the town like pollen in the wind. People grew hungry for reading again. Some wrote their own stories and became book gardeners themselves. Fiery maples bloomed with picture books, willows wept with poetry, and fruit trees filled with cookbooks. As the trees grew, the town blossomed. The mayor lost his mayoral work, was oblivious to all the changes. The mayor lost in his mayoral work, was oblivious to all the changes. That is, until a ripe book fell on his head. Bonk. The mayor kicked and stopped. Who planted these trees? You did, sir, Arlo said. When you tore up the books, you planted an idea. Impossible. This is the second time my head is hurting because of a book. The trees have to be cut down. But we've become a town of books and stories. You can't cut them down. The mayor walked the streets of the town. He gorged himself at one of the 5-star restaurants, caught a show in the park, and lost himself in a story about a boy fishing for a whale in a puddle. There's the mayor reading. Books did all of this? The mayor asked, astonished. No, said Arlo, as he handed the mayor a freshly picked story. The book was just the seed. The end. So that's the end of our story. We can read a little bit about Paul and Rashin. Paul was the author of the book, and it says, Paul struggled with reading and writing as a child and never thought he'd end up writing books. But after working as a scientist for 20 years, he discovered that his creativity could no longer be contained to the laboratory. Now he hopes his books will be the seeds of a new generation of book gardeners. Paul lives in New Jersey, USA. Rashin is an internationally acclaimed, award-winning illustrator, author, animation director, and painter who has had more than 70 children's books published around the world. Born in Iran, she is now a professor at the University of Maryland, College Park, and lives in Washington, D.C., USA. So I hope you guys liked today's book, The Book Tree. This is a brand new book. You can actually hear the creaking because it's new. When he talks about the cracking and crinking of new books, that's the sound he hears. It's pretty cool because I know when we have older books, they don't do that as much. If I open this book, for instance, you hear a little bit, but not as much because it's been very well loved, which is a good book too. I hope you guys enjoyed our story today, and I hope to see you soon. Bye!